Welcome to BeerNet Radio. Listen to on every continent except Antarctica. BEER.net.
Beer.
BeerNet Radio.
Been wearing my hoodie all day. I'm Crypto Boy. I'm Sam Berkman-Fried. Look at me.
Boy.
Hey, gonna spend $40 million on a yacht. I can't even drive a boat. I'm obsessed with that story. I'm obsessed. It gets better and better and better. That FTX. It makes the beer industry, even back in the 90s when it was nuts, it makes it look almost sane. You know? I mean, August Bush landed a helicopter in a parking lot. That's nothing. That's nothing compared to what this guy did. All right, let me get my chewing tobacco.
Jordan, who's this guy? FTX. It's over my head.
It was like a NFT company.
Oh, okay.
And they somehow lost 36 billion.
Okay. That makes sense.
No one really knows where it went. So no one is saying where it went.
Yeah, right. It's
Nobody.
Satoshi.
I know where it went.
Where did it go?
Are you talking about Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yeah.
For somebody who gave a lot to charity, he sure spent a lot on himself too. You should see, I just was looking at pictures of his penthouse in the Bahamas. It is unbelievable, this place. It is unbelievable. And it made me want to get into crypto. I want to live like that, if that's how they live. But hello, Austin Sawyer.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. How are you? It's good to see you again. Welcome to BeerNet Radio, where all your dreams come true. My name's Harry Schuhmacher. I've got Jordan Driggers and Jen Litz-Kirk, even though she's got my name listed there. She wants to be me.
Yeah.
And
I just want to be loved like Harry.
You know what? Isn't that what we all want?
To be loved like Harry?
So, yeah. So we have Austin Sawyer here. And what is your firm called again?
CounterMeasures Corp, or CMC is much easier to say.
Yes. Okay. Well, we're glad to have you on. And I know that you used to run with a running buddy of mine named J.R. Hand.
Yeah, I was with him for through acquisitions and mergers, as he likes to do, about 13 years. So he's one of my best mentors and friends in the business. And we're based in Nashville here, and that's obviously where he lives too. So I'm sure off the radio, we've got some good stories to tell there. So.
Yeah. No. Let's do it on the radio.
No.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for being on. And I want to say happy Thanksgiving to you in case we get cut off. We were just talking about Sam Bankman-Fried. I know we're not here to talk about crypto, but the story's too good. But why don't we pivot real quick onto another dramatic scene, and that's the World Cup in Qatar. I got to say, Anheuser-Busch is showing a lot of class through this whole thing. From the very beginning when they tweeted, well, this is awkward, to really not going out publicly just saying this is such a shit show bullshit deal, which it is. And, and like I said, this honestly, when you get down to brass tacks, it's not such a bad deal for AV. They lost porridge. Who cares? They still get the digital. They still get the TV. And then now they got so much free press and they're the victim. Everybody feels sorry for them. It's going to be positive net. Do you agree with that, Austin?
Yeah, I saw Bud Zero. I was reading an article earlier, and then also Bud just announced, I think the winning team's country's party is going to be sponsored by the excess Budweiser they have in inventory. That's pretty cool. Yeah, but the press is everywhere. I mean, it's on not just traditional like your stuff or beer industry stuff. It's everywhere. It's on every social media outlet, everything there is. So, I mean, I don't know what their impact or projected ROI for this thing is, but it's looking pretty good. And I agree with your point earlier. I think it came out one of your articles where they said like they've got the upper hand for renegotiation is a pretty good understatement there.
I mean, right. Can you imagine going to that conference room? Okay, let's talk about 2024. Yeah,
because there's like the festival world, which I've done plenty of those where you negotiate festival sponsorships and it gets rained out, or still you're talking about 2-3 day events with 100,000 people. This is a little bit bigger scale.
Yeah.
So, you have some buying power walking into those meetings, but this one's a little bit different. So,
You know, I know it's terrible for the fans, and I feel bad, but it's so awesome from just a drama, and I don't know. I love global drama, and the main reason is because I get quoted in the Wall Street Journal, and that that's not a humble brag. That's just a brag.
So it'll be interesting to see for me, and I think I saw Hensley Beverage on their social in Arizona had a bunch of Budweiser watch parties with the World Cup edition Bud bottles. It'll be interesting how many people come out and hammer Budweisers in the support. I mean, I don't know if it's a support or just feels American more than normal, but it'll be pretty good to see their on-premise sales. I bet it's pretty fair this week.
Yeah, and think about the sampling on Bud Zero. I think it's going to help Athletic and every other non-alc, because I think a lot of people don't even know that there is non-alc beer and that people actually drink it. I mean, I guess people know, but it's not
that there's cool non-alc beer.
Yeah, oh, Bud Zero. Everybody knows what Bud Zero is now, right?
But I think before you had traditional was like O'Doul's Red and Green, and then you had Kloss Holler and some other stuff, and now you go to any shop now, there's 10-foot sections of non-alc beer, non-alc spirits, wines, everything. And it's a big eye opener. I agree.
Yeah. Well, why don't we talk about the beer industry, the real beer industry? And Jen, why don't I hand the mic over to you? And
thank you, Harry. Yeah. So Austin, let's talk about what you guys do, right? In CMC Short Life, you guys have already amassed a wide array of clients, from established brands like Sweetwater to even 5 Hour to, up and coming guys like Luna Bay Booch and Loverboy and Elenita. So can you remind us again what you do in simple terms and why you saw the need for it?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll start with the why, and then I'll kind of parlay that into what we do. The why was in my previous life on the wholesaler side for a long time. We call it almost like the Groundhog Day effect. Brands would knock on our doors, wholesalers, and they would tell us how they've got the greatest thing ever in a can or bottle or keg, and they'd convince us about their marketing plan, and they'd bring in key account team or local field reps or whatever it is. And the Groundhog Day effect was about 12 to 18 months past that. You usually make it through like one ABP season of, hey, we didn't hit our goal, or this happened. I'm not saying wholesalers sign up for unrealistic goals or suppliers have unrealistic goals, but I play the other side here now, so I won't go into that. But you'd go through that process, and then budgets ROI didn't make sense to the original plan when they launched. So the local market rep you had would now, and let's use Chicago as one of our markets previously. Now that person covers Wisconsin or Indiana or Ohio, and they start getting a bigger bandwidth, which effectively makes them not a Chicago market rep anymore. Same thing can happen in any major market, or they get double duties, they get pulled in different directions, or what we saw common about 2 years ago, we're 2.5 years old now, but when we started was big furloughs were happening all over the industry. People were cutting people altogether. I think it was a long time coming. I think people needed to adjust and look at their bottom line. And the traditional 100-year run was, we're going to open up New York and we're going to put a body in New York. No rhyme or reason, no business case. And they looked up and it was kind of an, oh shit, or, oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm going to say shit.
Oh yeah, you can definitely say shit on this show.
Okay, great. So, they'd have this like, oh shit moment and say like, what are we doing? This doesn't make sense. And sometimes one was the floor. People would launch markets, big metros with 3-4 people, a regional CAM, all that stuff. It just didn't make sense anymore. So we saw this continue to happen. And then for startup brands, we saw people, would bring on a high-ranking VP of sales from some other organization. They'd steal someone that had wholesaler connections. They knew how to open up wholesalers. Well, at some point, that person opens up markets, and then they have these people, they start cutting people. Then they start, how do we justify this VP of sales or whatever position it is? So all these people start getting different roles, responsibilities, and it essentially made these beverage companies burn a lot of cash and not hit a lot of sales numbers. So I took that book, and actually before I left, I had a long conversation over a couple of beers with JR and kind of told him about it. He goes, look, I've seen it forever. My dad's seen it forever. He's like, this needs to happen. And I think COVID may be the right size of people doing it. So went all in with it. And essentially what we do for that sales function is kind of 4 things. The biggest portion of our business is shared sales reps, as we call them. So what these are channel focused and wholesaler focused bodies. So pure retail selling people. Our most popular model, it's one of 4 brands. So if Budweiser was a brand and 3 others, what we would look for, 2 things, really 3. Are you a good brand to work with? The people behind the brand and the liquid. Is it something we would want to sell if I was out there with an iPad? 2, are you with the right wholesaler? We found that wholesalers love our model because there's a lot of brands that give them no market support, but they don't want us selling and doing ride lists with their rep and then also having something from their competition. And then channel focus. So we'll get into brands and all that in a little bit, but let's take a market like Arizona. So I got a call about Arizona 2 seconds ago. You can sell RTDs in any class of trade there. Texas, however, you can't sell. There's restrictions, right? So we look at the market restrictions. If someone comes to us and says, I want to spend all my time in Fry's grocery, or I want to do all my time in on-premise, they're not the right brand for us. We need somebody that wants to hit both channels, chain independent, on off-premise with a balanced approach. Our people go out there, hit 50 plus accounts a week, and we sell all 4 brands. When we line up those lineups and pair them, again, we don't want to have duplicative brand types. So we don't want to have 4 craft beers or 4 CBDs or 4 spirit-based cocktails. The good news is, as you guys know and cover, there's so many different beverage brands in every category. And we've been very lucky enough to be the firm that a lot of people are going to, and through word of mouth and getting out there, that we can cover these markets for them for great ROI from their side, and do a good job. We don't do wholesale management. We're not doing incentives. We're not doing forecasting and distributor orders. We're purely going out there, selling everything to VIP Karma, recapping every Monday. We have basically taken, because in my opinion, the beer business got very complicated, and I'm a living proof that you don't have to be very smart to do a lot in the beer business. You show up with good products, have your selling shoes on, make relationships, and then we control the sell to, the brands, the marketing, the liquid control the sell through. So we take that philosophy, and 2.5 years ago when we started, I think we were in Chicago, Phoenix, and about 5 markets we started in. We're going to wrap up this year in about 15 different cities with about 40 people throughout the US now. Bigger markets, Chicago, New York, Nashville, LA, have multiple people that all have their own brand silos. Those people don't compete or don't overact, but they do help each other high spot and find out where the willing buyers are. We work very well with wholesalers to really get that alignment. And then now we're seeing, fast forward 2.5 years later, we're definitely working as hard, but it's getting a little easier for us. We've got some fantastic brand partners. There's a big difference in a brand that no one's heard of that you're having to pitch from ground zero. And then some really cool brands that we've been lucky enough to sign. And then right now in ABP season, our friendly wholesalers are calling, texting, email saying, I just left 6 ABPs in a row. They all want me to be up 20%. They don't have any key account wins coming. They have no plan for a body. I gave them your email. So it's great. So we're doing that. It helps us a lot. We don't get over our skis, and we haven't, as far as going into markets, just because the flyover states is pretty good consensus. We'll never have anybody in that part of the country. We're exploring some new places such as Vegas, maybe Seattle, Portland, Northern California. We're all over Texas, but there's a lot of places we probably will never be because we're not going to find distributor alignment. We're not going to find the right brand alignment. And none of our people are contract people. They're all salaried full-time people. And we don't want their jobs to be at risk if someone pulls out of a market or goes under or something bad happens and we're out there on an island. Where we are operating are markets where everyone wants to sell beverage. And there's a constant influx of new people that want to do. And that's how we get a 4th person in Chicago, a 5th person in LA kind of thing. The other one we do, and this is one we've been in for the last 2 years, is key accounts. But now we're tripling down that segment. We're hiring 3 more key account managers. One's already been hired. And basically we're strategically putting them in. One's in the Southeast, everything Florida, SEG, Publix, Total Wine, ABC Liquors. We're putting one in the Midwest that's going to sit on Kroger's desk and handle all the Kroger banners nationally. Knock on wood, maybe Albertsons falls through there and it becomes a little easier for synergistic call points. And that's good news for us. And we're putting one out west that's either going to be in SoCal or Phoenix. And then we're going to have a C-store person. About the only thing that we get a lot of requests for in key accounts that we're not doing is that pure natural food channel, because so much of that business is direct ship. And most of what we do, or probably all of what we do, or 99%, is through traditional DSD. That's who we like to work with. That's who we see they can fulfill the chain mandates. They can show up. They know how to merchandise, do all that. These direct shipped wholesaler opportunities that don't have brick and mortar, don't have people. We just found out early on that's not the right solution. And then we also do retail marketing. Retail marketing can be anything from, price promotions, Ibotta, Venmo rebates, point of sale procurement, creation, management, fulfillment, anything there. And then, the fourth one we do, and some of the brands you mentioned earlier, Jen, is expansion. So we've got an expansion director on our team that's based out of Atlanta that runs this project, a lot of it with me throughout the country. And these are going to be projects like we did for Loverboy, where we're opening up new markets for them. We're going to new territories. And then we do have something else we're working on for that client that's not ready for any four of those, because, just like if you all publish an article, and this will say you guys publish all great articles, but, if you guys publish something no one wanted to read, people are going to lower the readership. If we start bringing brands to wholesalers or retailers that no one wants to talk to, they're not worth the meeting time, we lose a bit of our stock and credibility with the wholesaler. Right now, we've got a network of wholesalers throughout the country that if we're talking brand partnerships, expansion, key account help, whatever it is, they pick up our call, text, email, because they know we're bringing them business and we're mutually helping each other out. But there's a lot of customers we get. I think we probably get 20 to 30 FedEx, UPS shipments a month. Our delivery people don't love us because we're on a higher floor and it's a lot of heavy boxes come illegally to us. But, we try out so many brands that are great liquid, great founders behind it. They're just not ready. And whether they're at a stage where they've secured funding or they haven't yet. So we started this thing called Brand Boot Camp that we're rolling out a lot heavier in 2023 that basically takes our leadership team and it can help you with expansion strategy. So we're not taking you new wholesalers, but we're letting you know like what the wholesalers are going to expect of you. And if you guys haven't talked to wholesalers in a while, the entry bar is higher than ever to get in. There's certain markets that are a non-starter unless you have heavy chains. Certain people want to know, like, 6 months ago, everyone was wanting to know about RTDs, but now the RTD bar is higher. Are you different? What makes you different? Like, how are you going to compete with the high noons of the world? What's your point of differentiation? So we help people tell the story better, put together their marketing collateral, tell their story better, make sure if you're going to go with like POS activation, here's what matters to wholesalers. Here's how to do CPC. We align them if they don't have a beverage attorney. We got some great ones that we work with that we recommend. If they don't have data, we kick them to great data firms. There's so much of that stuff they need to connect the dots before they're ready to go to market. And, the hard part is so many of these people have done their fundraising or invested their own money and they come to us and think, I'm ready to go, but they're not. And look, some people take that the wrong way. We're very respectful about it, but it is crowded. I'll tell you this right now. It is crowded out there. Chain buyers will tell you this. Wholesalers will tell you this quickly. Retail operators will tell you this. You got to be sharp and good at what you're doing. So, for our sales reps, that's why we started, we did all the Fox certification and we do an ongoing process with Tom and Sean and the team. And we keep sharpening our tools with VIP and Fox and everything internally, because even what we do has to be as good as what they can provide at a great ROI. So that's the rundown of kind of what we do. Hope that explains it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's a great idea. I mean, this has been needed for so long, and kudos to you for executing, because one thing we've always said is that wholesalers are from Mars and suppliers are from Venus. They don't speak the same language. They don't really have the same views in a lot of ways, and that's been a pain point forever since when I started in the 90s. Suppliers would come in and they think they know everything and own the world, and you're like, you don't know what a PTC is? You don't know what a roller ad is? You don't know, come on, man. And
look, and some people don't want to hear it, by the way, too. Some people think we're the idiots and like we don't know what we're talking about, and it's not the right partnership, but that's fine, because we go through such a heavy vetting process before it's the liquid step one, but then we get to know your team, let you meet our team, and make sure it's a good partnership, because we've got a great army of brands right now, and we'll bring on some more in 2023. But you have to, because if they're unrealistic, or you're going to get them on the wholesaler calls and they start talking crazy and boastful and egotistical, like it makes you look bad because you set up the date, right? So
right.
We play Tinder a little bit, I guess, in the matchmaking segment.
You're like a translator, you know.
Oh my
right.
gosh.
I mean, you gotta have to have one.
That's
They're a
right.
matchmaker. So
Yeah.
no, I have a quick, so in the markets you cover, do you work with every type of wholesaler?
We do. Yeah. I mean, back to kind of the original thing. If you've got a brick and mortar warehouse real sales team, we're talking to you or working with you. On expansion, when we bring brands, of course, most people would love to be with the biggest and best and cover every class of trade. The problem is those bigger and best are going to expect you to walk in with a lot of support, a lot of chain commitments, a lot of marketing collateral. But sometimes people come to us and say, we want to go traditional brand builders. Some of the biggest wholesalers in the world are still nimble enough and invested in that segment to build brands. Some will tell you on a call, we are not your brand builder. Your sales team, you're going to have to do that, but we will deliver every box, we'll deliver every chain, we'll do all this. But some wholesalers still have that crafty, feel good factor. I don't mean just craft wholesalers, just smaller. You guys know the distributors, they'll still build brands.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, what do these young non-malt based brands find more appealing most of the time? Beer distributors or wine and spirits networks?
So before they come to us, and this is meant no disrespect to some of the larger wine and spirits wholesalers, they often think that a Southern or an RDC or a Breakthrough are the immediate solution for them because they can open them up in any market. And if they get Walmart or Target or Kroger, they just flip a switch and they go. These big wholesalers didn't get big on accident. They know what it takes. They know what good brands look like. Their barrier to entry is even higher, and they do an excellent job of working all those things. But I think when we explain to them what they need to bring for support to these larger wholesalers, I think it sometimes scares them off. And I think a lot of these big wine and spirits houses are doing a couple times a year pitch meetings when they're taking everybody in a row and doing it. So I think they may start with that angle. But I think beer is, I'd say 80 to 90% of the deals we do for expansion are with beer wholesalers, but they're beer wholesalers who now have wine and spirits. They're into CBD, they're into non-out. So they're not just beer wholesalers anymore, but they're not the big wine and spirits houses.
Right. It seems to me like the big wine and spirits houses, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the bar is higher, but they are more open today than they were, a few years ago, especially for a quote lower margin canned product. And because it seems like they want to get into that business more. And like you said, they can cover the whole country, but they cover it an inch deep, whereas your typical DSD beer wholesaler covers the whole market, everybody.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think what we're seeing, and I was talking to the Mom Water guys the other day who are lights out there across the country right now. They're selling like crazy. They've got a national strategic and they've done but they're doing the right things where they're investing heavily in the cams. They've got a big team. They've got a lot of good marketing and momentum behind them. So they're doing what it takes to do those. And I think when you see these big wine and spirits houses, it's almost like they're hedging their bets on what can we take across the country. I don't think you're seeing any more of what would work in Arizona or California. It's like, what can we take, sign them up for our network basically, and what can we hedge our bet on? What do we not have in this category? What makes this different? What are we missing as a company? Or do we think this thing is future proof and can grow to a few million boxes across the country? I think that's what you're seeing a lot more on, because they hold the power too, right? You get in with them, you sign up with Texas, you got to get first right of refusal in other markets, on a lot of these big houses. So it's good in the fact that if you turn on chains, you have the opportunity to grow into markets. But if you don't love that big relationship as you get bigger, you should have a good beverage attorney and make sure that you've got your contract ready for that.
So if you're talking about everybody has to be well capitalized, right? Do you help with fundraising efforts and exit efforts too? Because obviously these days it's not uncommon for a 1 or 2 year old brand to sell to a strategic, right?
Yeah, so we do. This is probably our heavily vetted, this is the heaviest of the vetting we do because we've got a couple good friendly partnerships with a couple of big beverage VC firms. And everyone asks us about it because fundraising is harder than ever right now. I think you're going to see a massive, I think Q1, Q2, 2023 is going to be bad. So I think for a lot of people, I think most of the fundraising opportunities right now are in brands that don't have strong chain presence. They're building it, they're pitching, they're hoping for the best. You've got to survive the next 5 months, which traditionally, outside of a few sunny and 78 markets, it's a long, cold winter. It's like 20 degrees in Nashville today. Like it's, it's a lot. Like to fight in the bars, in the independent C-stores and liquor stores, and to survive there, to be ready to make it next year. A lot of these companies are now searching for POs to help fund their other payables. And they're running out of capital, and they've overextended themselves a little bit, thinking that funding was easier 6 months ago, but every month that passes by, it's harder. So when the right brand comes along, we're happy to help them make introductions. We are not a broker firm where we get commissions off bringing them capital. If we find the right brand that we believe in, they're a great partner to us. We're happy to make those introductions. Maybe we should take a piece of, maybe we should get involved in the exit side. Seems like not a bad gig, but no, I mean, we stay pretty heavily focused on what we do. But the good thing about us is, I mentioned beverage attorneys earlier, or data companies. We've got great relationships with some of the best out there, just like the VC firms. So we're an easy connection once you're a partner of us. We're always happy to help people out there. It's good for us too, right? They raise a couple $1 million. They can do new markets with us. They can do new services. So it helps us indirectly.
It's interesting you say it is harder to raise money now, and I completely agree. It's getting so crowded. Plus, we're in this post-COVID world, where it was all fun and games. Now it's time to rationalize and see where the rubber meets the road. Is that in general a good thing that there's not that level of investment that we had a year or two ago? Just because it seemed like there was just a lot of almost too much money coming into the industry, or are we going to wake up 5 years from now and say, hey, we kind of underinvested right after COVID?
No, because I think there's enough firms out. It's a good thing, but because I think there needs to be a thinning of the herd. I mean, pick any category: non-out beer, non-out spirits, craft beer, RTD, wine, spirits, traditional. There is a absolute surplus of brands that are in the category doing well, the ones that are existing and are smart about their capital, and the ones that have probably overextended a little bit and need capital pretty badly right now. I'd say the right money is going into the right companies right now. Obviously, like I saw Athletic got an absolute ton of money a couple of weeks ago, but I think a lot of these brands are looking for anywhere from $2 to $4 million. And I think if you have the right story, and story starts with data, we tell everybody, don't just tell a pitch of why you're the best, beverage brand to ever hit their desk, because they see 50 of these a month at minimum. And they tell everybody how this is the best equity deal and this is the best return, and we're going here. Show them. If you've got a big strategic, newco, you talked about the other day, Jen, they're a partner of ours, and they won the golden ticket deal with Walmart. And I was talking to Rich, and the guy was like, brag about that. Like, you won. It was like American Idol style. They won the golden ticket. Wholesalers love Walmart. They sell a lot of the boxes. And for a brand that's going to be established, I think they've got 2 to 3 SKUs going in the majority of the Walmarts. And then Walmart's got this plan with them that as they grow, they will continue to add new states, new markets, new brands. That plus their current IRI data, plus the liquid's good. Those boxes checked. Like companies like that, I don't see having issues getting funded. It's the ones that have a good product. More times than not, we're seeing someone anchor on a celebrity or an influencer or something like that. I don't think any of that matters to the people handing out checks right now. I think everybody's got $1 million blue check mark. I guess you can buy blue check marks now, I found out, but for $8. But like the 1 million followers and the big endorsements and the people that are tied in, I don't think that matters as much to the people investing the money. They want to see, is the product selling and is there a runway? Because if you have a target national program and all you got to do is get the money to go execute it, I think people are more likely to write that check. If you say, we want to use this money to open up 6 states and go sell and build a sales team and do it, I don't think there's any money for that anymore. And to answer your question here, I think yes, it's needed because the wholesalers are rationalizing harder than ever. If you look at SKU hurdle rates right now, and ABP is a big conversation. The hurdle rates on any category or brand is higher than ever. So while they're not cutting suppliers out of wholesalers, they're definitely trimming brands back. And at the same time, they're not just open arms waving all new suppliers to come in also, because they want to make sure the ones that are coming in are not going to run out of money, not going to not pay bill backs and not have market support. So I think there does need to be a thinning, but I do believe firmly that the money's out there. The right money is going into the right hands or will. And I think people are being more selective than ever, but it need to happen because to Harry's point, people are handing out $1-2 million checks left and right previously.
You're right. That there was just so much money flowing in, and it was almost kind of ridiculous. And it probably is a good thing just to tighten that up a little bit to get all the crazy people. There's still going to be crazy
people. Don't need $10 million. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, don't empower them.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what you're saying. It takes more than to say, hey, I have a recipe from my grandfather that was in an attic that I found. And, that's how Jim Cook did it. And those days you got to have more than just a good origin story, I guess. And, one of, I think your clients is Kyle Cook, right? Did I hear you say Loverboy?
Yep.
He's a great example of somebody who came in as an outsider, but wanted to learn the business like that. I mean, that's what I got from him.
I'll tell anybody right now, Kyle is different by a mile because he doesn't come from this business, right? He's an entrepreneur at heart. He doesn't come from the beer business, but I was on countless calls with Kyle every single week. I think we opened up 75 wholesalers in about 20 states for them. We were busy as hell with Loverboy when they were running a gun to open up the country. Kyle dives right in. Kyle isn't an operator that sits in an ivory tower and forecasts. I mean, he's like most bullish operators where he wants the world. And I think his brand and what he's done with it shows that, but he dives right in. If he doesn't know something, he asks a question. He's got a great team with him. He listened to advice that we had to say that wholesalers would give feedback. But there's a lot of the people that have the same kind of marketing reach Kyle have and access to funding and good brands that don't listen, that kind of ride that egotistical wave. And I don't think you'll see people like that around very long. They'll run out of money and not re-raise at some point, or a strategic will happen somewhere for him, maybe. Kyle's a good one. He dives in and works his ass off.
I shared a cab with him or an Uber like a year ago. And, I was expecting to get in the Uber and ask him a bunch of questions, right? It was the complete opposite. He was just peppering the whole 20-minute ride. He was just peppering me with, how do chains work? How does this, and I'm like, this guy cares. And and those are rare. And that, what you said earlier about, wine and spirits wholesalers want that national pull. And it does make sense. If you look at somebody like the Nelk Boys with Happy Dad, they went mostly, I think, with wine and spirits wholesalers. And the reason is they have that national reach through their YouTube channel and all of that, that might have made sense for them. Whereas something that you want to get into C stores and independents, and that you definitely want to be with beer wholesalers.
That's the barrier, right? Is most of these traditional wine and spirits. I mean, it's C stores. That's where you miss out. And stay on Loverboy for a second. Single serves, convenience store play. That's a massive opportunity because the hardest thing, this is a little bit, I think Nelk, I think they're traditional. There's a store right by our office here that they brought in. It was like Snoop Dogg and Dana White and the Nelk Boys, and there was 300 people around the corner, and they went to 5 stores when they launched here, and every one of them had a 300 case drop, and people around they were signing boxes, and that's great. But do you build a brand? I mean, what's the long term? They've done a good job. I've seen they've got some new SKUs they've launched, and they're keeping the flavors fresh, so that's good for them. And obviously they've got a reach that's not going away. I don't think they're a one-hit wonder there, but yeah, there's someone that needs to be able to pitch to chains and deliver on a national scale, and they don't need their fans not being able to find the brand. So I think as long as you have enough of a channel strategy, and they do a good job of telling you where you can buy Happy Dad, you can usually find it enough places. I don't know, that's one I thought would kind of go early and exit or get picked up by a AB or a Blue Cloud or somebody, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't need it. Obviously they do pretty well for it.
Jordan, I know I can tell.
Yeah,
I can always tell when Jordan's
I think Jordan has a question.
He starts chewing on his lip and he's kind of shifting in his chair.
I thought Jen had one.
Okay. Well, I'll ask one if you don't have one.
No, the only thing I wanted to ask, because you mentioned it a few times, was CBD beverages. And I was just wondering, have you seen wholesalers, retailers kind of be a little more willing to take on those products? The news from Molson Coors last week, they made it sound like, this is just not scalable. So wondering what you're seeing there.
Wholesalers, yes. Chain retailers, no. Independent retailers, yes. I'm actually drinking one right now. It got shipped in, so it's good. It's like an energy drink CBD that doesn't alter you, so it's good.
So it cancels it out. So it's just like drinking water, but you're
We'll
paying a lot
see.
more for it.
I fall asleep by the end of this or pass out, you'll know that too much. So yeah, certain wholesalers are taking it. I think when you go back to the conversation earlier, I said about the wholesalers that want to build a brand. If you are going into CBD right now, you are behind the segment, you're a forward-thinking distributor, and you are very interested. And there's certain markets that I think I ran into Robbie with Miletus at whatever convention was just in Chicago, MBWA, I think. And I was talking to him, and he's got a CBD brand up there that he's selling a ton of. And I think that's the market he's in, is in Oregon. So that's obviously a big CBD market. So there's certain markets, I think the wholesalers are behind it, but it's not going to be a case driver. What I see, the funny thing about CBD beverages right now, they almost all have an alter ego product that's a THC beverage that's kind of sitting on the sidelines ready to go. The one that I'm drinking, this Wonder brand that we're partners with, they have a dissolvable THC tablet they're selling in Colorado and soon to be Chicago. Wow. They also have a big CBD that anyone can buy and drink. So they're one that's actually unleashed that arm. The cool thing about CBD beverages is they're having no problems from what we've seen getting funding. So they're well capitalized. They're usually taste good. You're not drinking something. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Vegas and bought like a real weed beverage or something that's real THC. They used to taste awful. Mm-hmm. Now they've got the chemistry side of these things down where they're really good and they're approachable. So I think that the companies, they're not overextending themselves. They're figuring out the right markets. The problem is, just like any other rat race for any other category, is the big markets are California. The big markets are Florida, where everybody wants to be for beer, wine, spirits, everything. So you got to find wholesalers in those markets that are willing to build. And once they get a couple of them, they don't really want more. So they want to align themselves with the best ones that are available. And I feel like the investment behind them, the wholesaler, and the brand strategy are all the same. They're all kind of sitting there waiting on regulation to change and chain. So if you build your distribution in the independent here in Nashville, you can buy CBD beverage at on-premise, you can sell it at liquor stores, you can sell it at natural grocery. But you can't sell in Kroger here, you can't sell in Publix or Circle K. But eventually the thought is that will change. So I think the wholesalers that are betting on that are getting in and say, look, if we can sell 5,000 cases, and it's pretty good margin on these brands, we can make $100,000 a year. But if we've got a brand that's well established, people know it, and then Kroger switches, we can now say we've got the top selling independent volume CBD beverage in Tennessee, for example. And I think that's what a lot of these people are betting on. So yeah, I think it's a slow play, but we've got a few that we're involved in and work with. And there's not a lot of volume in any of them, but it's everybody's kind of waiting, and they're happy to build the distribution base. Ton of liquid to lips, ton of sampling, ton of promotional activity behind them, bunch of dollars on marketing. But there's also some heavy regulation around marketing in some of these markets where you can't promote it. But I think they're all in for the long haul, and you're waiting on legislation to change. What happens if that doesn't change? I don't know. There's a lot of money out there betting on this segment, but I'd say it's safe to say that weed CBD isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So beyond that, though, we've talked about how high the bar is now for new brands, right? And that RTD is like table stakes. What's next? What are people wanting? Retailers, wholesalers, what actually is going to make it through that's new?
So I think what everybody's doing right now is evaluating the good wholesalers we're working with right now, evaluating their portfolio as a whole. And whether they're a big AB, a Miller Coors, those guys kind of get a starting on second base advantage, because usually I can guess and speculate all day that the smarter people at AB and Miller Coors have some good foresight, better than I do. They're usually something in that category to keep them competitive. But a lot of these wholesalers are looking, how are we positioned in RTD? On the Hispanic beer portfolio, Modelo's on fire, everything's rising. That's one that, there's been some knockoffs arise. There's been some Americanized versions that are trying to compete. They're not competing, right? Like, so you can either say we're either in, or maybe you've got a Dos Equis, or maybe you've got Sol, but you can just be the number 2 guy there. Then on craft, it's kind of the 3 stage within craft. How are we looking on national craft? That's where you're going to sell your boxes in chain. How are we looking on regional and local craft? So then it's like some subcategories of like, well, we're heavy on West Coast IPAs, but we've got no great Pilsner, and we're seeing Pilsner trends in this market go through the roof. So there's some of that like subcategorization of what they need. And then they're all looking at like how we position on RTDs. Again, if you're a Miller Coors or if you're a Boston Beer House, now you've got some coming down the pipeline for you that you know are going to have key account support, you know aren't going anywhere, you know they're going to pay their bills, and it's not a new supplier to onboard. So I think what we're hearing a lot of right now is, hey, I'm very interested in ready to drink cocktails that fit this mold. I'm looking for crafts that fit this. I'm looking for non-alc that is priced in this range. Energy is a lot of conversation right now. There's also a lot of hesitancy on energy right now. Not to go into the weed, like a lot of people have been burned a couple of times now and are going back with their ex-wife now. And I'm hearing some re-signs on some big energy deals. But people are realizing what they don't have and they're looking for that. If a wholesaler thinks they are over-indexed or at par where they should be for a certain category, that's when you really have to have the right storm to get in with that one. So it's, and this is where we're very helpful because we know what these wholesalers, we're talking to them weekly, monthly, all the time about what they're looking for, what's struggling, what's doing well, what a brand needs to succeed in their market. So before we even bring a brand to them, we understand what they're looking for and what their market is dictating and is successful. So it'd be easy to say everyone has a high level of interest right now into non-alc beverage products, not water, energy, but non-alc beer, wine, spirits, and ready to drink cocktails. But the ready to drink cocktails is a more narrow lane. Are chains behind you? Do you have a key account selling strategy? Are you priced right? Because we're hearing so much of this premiumization right now where I'm okay being $3 higher than High Noon. Maybe it works, but if you're in the independent world where High Noon's not only priced better than you case one, but they're buying 100 cases at a time to get $1 cheaper, a 4-pack. Now you're a $4 gap. It's getting worse for you. And guess what? Everyone knows what High Noon is. Not everyone knows what your brand is. So, that's where I think wholesalers want to see all the competitive nature is the margin great for them. I think the days of having a cool brand wholesalers found in love with and they're willing to settle for sub 25-point margin, or, we're going to set goals, we're going to work on change, you guys deliver the rest of the market, are done. I mean, you're going to have a plan. Again, it's why, like, tooting our own horn, but like why we work in a lot of models for a lot of brands, because they can go with us for a fraction of the cost and they have an investment to work in that market. Once they get there, they're going to have some level of wholesaler support, because even your smaller boutique wholesalers that are into brand building are still pretty selective, and they still have high standards of what they expect on supplier partners. So I think previously a lot of people got in the gate. I don't know when the gate, I don't think it's not shut, but it's been like narrowing like this for people to get in. And now, like, the fastest runners and the best brands are getting in there. So I think it varies by market, but I'd say if I had to put a category on it, those RTDs and non-alc beverages are definitely the most popular. And as far as the non-alc side, there's plenty of good options, but it's not overcrowded at all. So I think if someone was it surprised me a little bit that more big crafts haven't started doing non-alc. I may be wrong here and fact check me, but I haven't seen like a New Belgium non-alc or something. I mean, they may have it, or I may be an idiot, but it's surprising to me those haven't jumped into that category yet, because it's pretty wide open spaces. And if you look what retailers are doing right now, the space ads in the spring for non-alc craft, especially driven by athletic, but it's no different when a lot of retailers followed suit on White Claw and Truly and let a lot of other seltzers in that space. And that came out of beer space. I think now that space is now with the RTDs or pivoting back to craft a little bit, or maybe some domestic or import business has gained that share. But it's all about your selling strategy and story of what's attractive to wholesalers by market.
So is non-alc the next seltzer, right? Like it's going from no share to several share in a couple years, do you think? Or no?
I think it's got the most white space, because I think, and again, I'm not a data guy, but I'd say RTDs are going to be the one that continue grabbing the most share. If you're saying what's the next seltzer, it's already RTDs, right? Seltzer declining. I tried last night the new Truly vodka-based RTD. It's good, of course, like they know what they're doing. White Claw's got one coming out, so those brands know what they're doing. So they're obviously, when those start pivoting, I don't know what the wholesaler direction is, if it's 50-50 displays or all in RTDs, but I think I could probably guess what the direction is. You know, that's a segment that is definitely crowded, but you know, in non-alcs, it's got the most white space by a mile, I think.
Yeah. Every wholesaler has gaps in their portfolio, or perceived gaps at least. And that's, I do see wholesalers being much more sophisticated that way. Whereas I think in the past, it was like, you know, I like that guy and I like the color of the can, so let's bring it in, you know? And now it's like, no, we already have a product like that that's doing all right. We don't need another one. And matching that is complex and difficult because there's a lot of gray area. There's not transparency in data and information that could be there. And so, you know, having somebody to guide both the wholesaler and the supplier through that, I think is a great idea. It takes a special skill set. And I think, like I said, speaking wholesaler, you got to speak this special language. And you need to know it or have somebody that knows it. To me, that has been a huge pain point for 30 years. And even with big suppliers, a lot of times. But listen, I could talk to you for another 2 hours. I really could. We try and keep these down to 30 minutes, and we're already at 45. But
Austin, Harry's going to call you after this.
Yeah. I mean, we could. This is fascinating stuff to me. And Jen, I'm glad you found Austin and for the podcast because it's fun. You know, beer business is fun again, and I'm glad I'm still so young that I can enjoy it.
It's funny because like every, you know, up and coming brand that I see on LinkedIn or that I hear about, Austin is connected to. So I think the proof's in the pudding. I'm like, okay, he works with this brand. He works with this brand. He works with, and established brands too. So I was like, we got to get him on the pod and to share his secrets.
We've been lucky, right? I wish I had secrets. I'd write a book and sell them and not work so hard every week. But look, we work hard for people. We do what we say we're going to do. We're honest, straightforward people. And again, the beer business is not complicated. Like people overcomplicate it often, but you need to have good product, good attitude, good efforts, and it controls itself. And again, like we've spent $0 on marketing to date, and we've grown to a pretty big size company for what we thought it would be. We'll hit 50 people by the end of the year, and you know, probably grow to 60, 70 next year is our goal. You know, but now we've got a lot bigger brands working with us, and I'd be lying if I said that if it's easier to sell a local or regional IPA that you have to understand, tell the story, and do what it is, or you know, we're fixing to start working with the Shoots Brewing, and there's not many people in the beer industry that don't know what a fresh squeeze IPA is. I'd be lying if I said it's not a little easier for our team to sell fresh squeeze or something like that than it is. And there's fantastic beers we work with that even you guys have never heard of. But it's our job to tell that story, and they all play a part, and there's a vital part of what we do to grow them. But we've been very lucky to get a lot of word of mouth referrals, and we've got some big, you know, lightning in a can brands, and keep getting them. So we're lucky, and you know, people like you help spread the word for us. So we appreciate it. Glad to be on here, and happy to do it anytime.
Well, especially because Jordan has an idea for a brand. He wants to take Welch's grape juice and then rebottle it and sell it as non-alc wine, and charge $50 a bottle for it. Okay,
but it's like someone selling a non-alc seltzer right now, and you know, they've got that could be identified as like a sparkling water, I think. But
some people might say that. You know,
it's all about how you position it. So
yeah. And I have a seltzer called Harry Bubbles. And
it's hard bubbles, Harry. Get it right. Hard bubbles.
Hard Harry Bubbles. And I don't think the TTB will prove that. It just sounds dirty.
Oh, they will.
Oh, they will. Jen has an in Washington, which, by the way, TTB came out on Friday. If you're paying influencers to show your product on TikTok or whatever, you better have your disclaimers and all the same legal shit that you have on all of your other ads.
Yeah.
Just came out.
This is why we're not brand owners. We help sell it.
Yeah.
It's going to keep getting worse.
Picks and shovels.
Yeah. That's your problem. That's their problem.
That's right. We're not legal.
You know. All right. Well, good. Well, thanks for being on, Austin. I appreciate it. And we'll shout at you after the holidays, and hope you have a good rest of the year.
Same to you guys. Thanks for having us on. Good to see everybody.
Thanks.
Take care.